Today we're talking about the idea of balancing when it comes to creating games. So Mike, what does balancing mean when you're thinking about creating a deck or a board or integrating a number of players into a game?
When you're designing a game, you come up with all sorts of ideas in your head for things that you think are cool that players could do. You come up with ideas for rules or pieces that have unique abilities in a game. And oftentimes what happens is you give a really, really powerful ability to a certain piece or to a certain card or to a certain alliance or side in a game. And other pieces are now no longer worth collecting or playing as. Like if you're playing chess, you have pawns, which are so much weaker than a queen. So a way to balance that is to make there be only one queen and to allow pawns to have unique ways of moving together. You have so many pawns, you can put them in a line, you can promote them. So if you're making a game where you have a character, a side, like if your orcs are very, very, very strong, there has to be a reason to play as dwarves. If you have a very powerful magical figure, why would you ever play somebody who's not magical? Maybe they've got really good swords or pieces of armor. So one way to do that is what's called rock, paper, scissors, where you can come up with lots of different abilities, but they all cancel something out. You have to build a wide variety in your deck. So a classic way to do it is that you have swordsmen, and swordsmen can kill pikemen very easily. Pikemen can kill cavalry very easily. Cavalry can kill swordsmen very easily.
And so it creates kind of a circle.
You create an army that either focuses on one and is only good at that and demolishes at that, or you create an army that has little bits of each, and you have to you give lots of abilities to the player to figure out how to use. You know, in some games they have what's called a horde army, where you have lots of terrible troops, or you can have your elite army of a couple really, really, really good elves who can just chop through the enemy. So when you're creating a game, you have to think, okay, I'm going to give the ability of the player to use this. What about everybody else? Is this too powerful? Is this too weak? Do we have to add an additional function where, okay, you're really bad at fighting, but you're good at supporting other people in combat? That's
well, and it also connects to, you're absolutely right. It connects to how players want to play the game. Some individuals are more excited about a horde army, or more excited about building just a small, strong, agile force that then they can maneuver on the board really quickly. In decks specifically, since we design a lot of games with decks, this can have to do with special powers associated with cards, where if you have one card that is just completely overpowering, there has to be some balance to that, and that would be an unbalanced deck, giving one player a stronger advantage where they just can't be defeated. So I love what you said about creating that rock, paper, scissors kind of circular motion between, even inside of a deck, where it's not even necessarily based on a dice roll, but each of the cards kind of has its counterpart, and trying to get that triangle as much as possible, where it's a swordsman, pikeman to horse, all kind of connected, is a great way to balance the deck creation. So when game creators come to us to work with us to help them understand not only how to update the technological aspects of the game, a lot of what we'll help them with is understanding how to kind of create these systems that are more intangible inside of their actual gaming concepts.
And it's not always so simple as having 3 pieces that go in a cycle, because you can have a very complicated game where, what if you have a war game where you have siege equipment and you've got generals, and then you can have a very complicated system, and that's why you have to think about, okay, is this balanced? And hopefully what happens is, a lot of times if you talk to people who play games, video games, board games, card games, if you go on forums, you'll find everybody arguing about what's the best faction to play as, what's the best building to build in my capital, and you'll get 10 different answers from different players. And none of them are wrong or correct, because those players play differently. It's like, well, I can build a big harbor and get a lot of money, or I could build a big barracks, and it's like, well, I win all my games because I just buy mercenaries, so I just have the best economy. And the other guy's like, yeah, well, your economy isn't going to mean anything when I nuke you. And then another guy's like, well, I just built a museum and now I've got more culture than you, or I built a big church. And it's like, there's no correct answer. You can win 100 different ways,
and I think
and that makes the game fun.
Exactly,
and it allows you're not only getting the player who's good at battle tactics. You know, it's not only the cavalry general who plays your game. Everyone plays your game. The people who like all the different facets that you incorporate into your game.
Well, and I think the real key of what you mentioned is creating a community and allowing players to find their own pathway through games where, yes, even if it's, you know, a game like Masterpiece where you're walking around a board and you're, you know, collecting artwork, down to a game like Scrabble or chess that has a more defined, you know, set way to play. Other games like Lord of the Rings, you know, SBG, and online games like Civ, etc. They allow the players to play their way, and building that community in the gaming world for that game is what makes something long lasting.
Yeah, you want to. You can guide the players into having this specific experience, and you know you have the whole. If your game's a war game, you're providing a certain flavor. If your game's, you know, but you don't want to necessarily tell the players they can't do something; they have to play a certain way. You're trying to provide tools for them to have fun.
Well, that's it for Game Brainz. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John.
I'm Michael.
And this has been Game Brainz.